Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO at Manappuram Finance, joining in. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nandakumar, and pleasure to speak to you as well after a really long time. Uh, Clearly, if you go to see Mr. Nandakumar, we're a couple of weeks away from the budget now, and it's really important for the government to look at different sectors as to how and what needs to be done. And this time it's going to be more challenging because the way COVID has hit all. Firstly, if you could just help us understand for NBFCs as a whole, what are the things that have already been done by the government according to you during COVID to help them?
Yeah, the government has done a lot for infusing liquidity in the system. So that has really helped the NBFCs in general. Uh, but there is always a complaint from the NBFCs which are small and lower rated, even though the funds were intended to be given to them. This has not actually reached to them. The funds were mainly given to highly rated NBFCs, and the liquidity at the lower end remain tight even today. The NBFCs play a very important role in the grassroots delivery of loans, etc., where the banks may not be able to reach at all because their cost of delivery is very low. So even the small players, which are very large in number, they also play an important role. So the support, for example, yeah, unrated companies or lower rated companies, yeah, just above the investment grade or just below the investment grade, etc., etc. Their requirements are not met. Otherwise, yeah, for yeah, the larger NBFCs, the situation, liquidity situation has improved.
Absolutely. And then clearly from here on, I think, when you look at the government, the worst of the pandemic induced slowdown is somewhere behind us. We are poised to enter a new phase of growth. What, according to you, should be the immediate, you know, action the government should be announcing for NBFCs? Because one of the immediate consequences of the lockdown has been the drying up of the liquidity flow in the economy, as the banks and NBFCs have become risk averse all at once.
Yeah, few things I would highlight here. One, the recognition. Even though NBFC's role are recognized about an integral part of the economy, yeah, in all the budget, the speeches, it is there. But in order to get the due recognition, I feel like there are ways to go. One, yes, the restoration of a priority sector lending tag for the NBFC lending. For example, yeah, in the case of gold loan, for example, these are we are getting different types of regulation. We are seeing different types of regulation here. One, for example, the banks, their risk weight
Hmm.
for small gold loans is zero. Whereas in the case of NBFCs, it is 100%. Another thing that another thing that prior PSL tag should be available. Earlier, this was available. Later, it was taken away for some other reasons, and later, whatever the apprehensions they had at that point of time, later the RBI has understood that these apprehensions are misplaced. So, even though some of the licenses were removed, but much more to be removed. One area we are enjoying that PSL benefit. The advantage is if the PSL benefit is available for the last mile delivery of these loans, which the NBFCs are undertaking, they will get the funds at a reduced rate, and also the banks also will be attracted to lend to them because they also will have to comply with the PSL rules. So these are available for microfinance, whereas the customers who are availing the gold loans are many of them are from the same segment. These are denied. Another thing for supporting the customers of banks, as a temporary phase, 90% LTV was granted for banks up to March 31st. I hope, it may get extended also. But, whereas the NBFC customers are denied the benefit of this. So, if you take the NBFC customers, our average ticket size is much smaller than the bank gold loan customer. So, their vulnerability is high, more than a bank. So they are denied, which I feel like it is not justified. Yeah, these are some of the things. Then again,
Right.
as you mentioned, the banks are more risk averse, even lending to smaller NBFCs. What few rules that can help the NBFCs? One is the fixed deposit route. But now it's almost a virtual bank. Only very few companies are allowed to raise deposits. Now, good companies with good credit rating, they can be allowed to. They will be allowed to raise public deposits. A proportion of their network can be allowed. Another thing is the bond market. Now the challenge is the bond markets are not attractive. So for that, few things should be done. One suggestion would be an investment protection fund. This idea for the event of a failure, the claim can be settled by this fund for that, just like DACGC, Credit Guarantee Corporation, and Deposit Insurance Corporation. Whatever is the premium that can be collected, so that the confidence in these papers increases. Then a few other things about the interest rate arbitrage. See, while a mutual fund or an insurance company purchases these bonds, they are taxed, their earnings are taxed at a lower rate. If an individual is directly subscribing to that, it is added to their earnings and they are not getting a special dispensation. So these are some of these things. What will help? What is going to help the NBFCs? See, I want to highlight few things about gold loan companies. Other things, most of the players you would have. The market knows much more about other products like microfinance or vehicle finance or home finance much more than gold loan, because gold loan in the formal sector has arrived very late compared to the others. So India is a large custodian of family gold, which
Correct.
is estimated to be around 30,000 tons or 35,000 tons. It's only an estimate. There's no real data available. So, from the various sources, we understand that 30 to 35,000 tons of gold with the families. And most of these are, a larger portion of these are with the rural families.
Hmm.
So government has done so many things to monetize this ideal gold and bring that to the economy, which is
Hmm.
valued around 1.5 trillion US dollars even at the current rate. So, in order to help monetization, the gold loans can play a very important role.
Hmm.
Is the various gold deposit schemes announced by the government couldn't get a good response from the public because what do they do after collecting this family gold? They melt it and they are not able to get these ornaments returned in the same form. So these are going to the mint, and if they want it back, these are returned in the form of a pendant.
Hmm.
Yes. So, whereas for the families, particularly rural families, they have a lot of attachment to sentimental attachment to that. For example, their the wedding ring or party or whatever has been gifted by the family members, etc. They wanted to see in the same form. So that's why these are not coming in the form of gold deposit to with the banks.
Hmm.
So these schemes fail. They could attract only some temple gold. Yeah. So which are offered by the devotees. Other than that, so here what I believe is the easy way to monetize
Hmm.
this idea to the families is to promote these gold loans in a big way, and
Hmm.
that also in the formal sector. Now, what happens is whatever is there in the formal sector, two times or three times, this is only a guesstimate. There
Hmm.
is no data available. These
Hmm.
are with the farmers. What happens is many of these are not accounted. The other thing, the way the interest is charged, everything is these lack transparency, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So, I hope as the rural families have plenty of gold with them. I'm talking about as
Hmm.
a nation, the digital family. So, this would be something which can help the rural families, particularly in the background of this pandemic.
Right. So, 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 Mr. Nandakumar, clearly, one thing is that the government needs to encourage monetization of physical gold that is lying with rural and semi-urban households. So, do you think that encouraging credit against the security of household gold is something which needs to be done, number one? Because currently, existing policies are not really conducive for large institutional lenders to emerge. So, what could be the remedy for this? Because for banks, I think the RBI has permitted them to a LTV of 90%, whereas for NBFCs, it's around 75%. So, do you think that cap needs to be similar for both for banks and NBFCs?
What I would suggest is to totally remove this cap. Totally remove. The reason is even NBFCs and banks can lend without a security. Even this gold, when the gold is a cash equivalent, even when the gold is offered by the people for a loan, I could not understand why there is a LTV cap at all.
Hmm.
So if the government feels that it is, RBI feels that it is required, then they can do like this. up to say a certain percentage, say 75% or 80%. Yeah, the risk weight can be at a particular rate, and more than that, they can increase the risk weight so that the well capitalized companies can lend without a LTV cap. At the same time, the regulators concerned about the security of the institution, yeah, can be protected to a great extent. So this will definitely help. Then another thing, for gold loan NBFCs, there is a problem. It is really faced by two, three NBFCs, gold loan NBFCs in the country. Over 1,000 branches, we need to take approval yeah, from Reserve Bank for opening every branch, every branch. And as you know, they take 1 or 2 years to clear that. Because yeah, the regulator at the regulator's hands, yeah, they always yeah ask several questions, etc. Why this thing that, and then finally, yeah, it gets approved after 1 or 2 years time. So, for example, in the north, there is a great, very big opportunity, like yeah, the Bihar, Orissa, or Assam, etc. Northeastern states and northern states in general. There is a huge gap between. There is a huge gap, yeah, which are largely. Yeah, the unorganized players are working there. So there's a huge gap there of the unorganized sector. So if these sort of restrictions are removed, it will be very helpful for the rural people who are now charged at the rate of 60 to 100% or 120%.
Right. So, with this, another aspect right now, what do you think about the priority sector lending status for eligible gold loans? Do you think that's something the government should restore? Because I think currently the gold loans which are given to farmers by banks are classified as priority sector lending, whereas the gold loans that are given by the NBFCs, they do not get this benefit.
Yeah. But today, the average cost of borrowing for a small NBFC is around still around 10%. It is in double digits. Their yeah, rate at which the loans are delivered by them naturally will be high at a rate of 17-18%. With their as their OPEX also remain high, being small. So even these companies could be encouraged, even larger companies could be encouraged to lend at a lower rate, much lower rate, which will be really helpful. So these NBFCs can lend at around 15-16%, whereas the fund brokers who are commanding the market, yeah, they are lending at 50-60%. So this would be really helpful for the rural, even urban poor and urban middle class. And with a lot of technology innovations like yeah, which the NBFCs have undertaken in the recent past, the digitalized world, this will help even yeah, uh, those people who cannot go out and take a loan, like loan delivery, etc., loans, gold loans, and loan delivery. So these technologies are already developed by NBFCs, which will benefit the people.
Right. And then overall, do you think we need to move away from the present system of prescribing 100% risk weightage for all risks to a prudent risk management practice of risk based capital requirement for NBFCs, which would then be at par with the banks?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now there is a big difference in regulation between NBFCs and banks in gold loan.
Hmm. Right. Right. And Mr. Nankumar, clearly, overall, another aspect is, do you think the NBFCs should be given access to the same tools for recovery of dues as what is available to banks who have recourse to the Sarfarazi Act and debt recovery tribunals?
Yeah, it is very, very essential. Now, yeah, even amongst NBFCs, some of the NBFCs, the software they enjoy that benefit. For example, home loan companies, even for their SME lending, which are the secured SME lending, you for a small loan, say 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, they can resort to surpassing. Whereas for an NBFC, the threshold is 50 lakhs. So these have to be brought on par. These are extended to housing finance companies, and these are managed well by them. There are no complaints about that. So I don't understand why there is a hesitation on the part of the regulation in extending that, similar to an HFC, even for a similar product.
Right. And anything on the regulation front that needs to be removed to cut down the costs for, gold finance companies where, higher regulations really leading to higher costs and automatically it impacts the margins. So any regulatory, approvals that are needed, which probably could be removed, which are not needed?
Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't actually want the removal, but rationalization.
Hmm.
Yeah, one is the capital cost. NBFCs, gold loan NBFCs have to incur is yeah. Whereas the banks, the risk weight for this product is zero. For NBFCs, it is 100%. It can be rationalized, say, up to 60, 70, 60% LTV. It can be 50%. The 90%, it can be 75%. So, scale-based risk weight can be considered, should be considered.
Right. And yeah, go on, Mr. Nankumar.
No, the other things I have told already. Yeah, the PSL, etc., etc. Yeah.
Right. And anything else we've missed for the gold finance industry, which needs to be considered by the government?
Yeah, the other things, yeah, see, there are several challenges here, yeah, which, yeah, one is most of these things are covered, then, but still, one the opening branches, etc., etc. There are for other NBFCs, there are no such restrictions, only for the gold loan NBFCs. Yeah. Then, yeah, PSL, see, other NBFCs enjoy in some sector. For example, microfinance,
Hmm.
even housing, affordable housing.
Hmm.
So, why these are denied to gold loan companies is still something which we can't understand. And one thing which we feel from the side of regulation, the gold loan companies are not getting the due recognition like other NBFCs.
Hmm. Hmm.
While representing the real problems of gold loan NBFCs like this, uh, the the impression maybe yes, vehicle finance, yes, they promote vehicle finance, yes, promote the vehicle industry as a whole. These help for income generation, etc., self-employment, etc. These sort of considerations are always there. Whereas gold loans are seen as a distressed product. Yes, while remaining as a distressed product to some extent,
Hmm.
there are also these loans are also supporting the working capital requirements of the MSME sector in a big way.
Hmm.
So these have not been understood properly by the policymakers. We made a survey in the past, and what we have understood is one third of the gold loans we have granted, yeah, it is going to the small farmers, seasonal farmers, yeah, dairy, pisciculture, etc., etc. And yeah, one third is going into the yeah for MSME for the working capital for meeting their working capital requirements, and one third is going for consumption, particularly for their children education, their medical, temporary medical requirements, etc., etc. To meet these requirements, they borrow against gold. So all these are actually seen as a priority sector, supporting the poor and the middle class.
Right. So a lot of things that the government needs to do from here on as well. Thank you, Mr. Nandakumar, so much for joining us on the show. I think great things that you've told us, that the kind of announcements that need to come in from the budget as well for the NBFCs, for the gold loan sectors, because that's something which will not only benefit the gold companies, but even small borrowers are the ones who will get benefited out of the relaxations that we could see out of this. Thank you so much, and hoping that all of these are considered by the government and maximum of it is done so that it benefits one and all. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you, Hiral. Thank you.